I hate the proficiency expertise system with a white-hot passion, a hatred close to pure. Alright everyone, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time zone you may be in. In today's video, I wanted to pretty much just go over some of your opinions from the PTS. In the background here, I'm basically just going to be going through Summit. I really needed to get a new Richter Kaiser piece for one of my builds, actually a couple of them, but I kind of forgot that I hadn't completed floor 100 from my testing videos with the hunters a few months ago. So I need to kind of quickly go through that and just kind of get back into farming the lower level floors of Summit. But anyway, let's getting into the actual video here. Alright, so last week right before PTS 3, I ended up putting out a poll to see what you guys generally thought of the PTS, just all of the content. So seriously, what do you think of the PTS? New content, new gear, everything or anything. Even if you have not played it, what do you think of what you've seen? And I hope we get some good comments. Now, I've kind of been on the down low with Division content and everything like that, so my polls generally are not popping up to as many people, so this is pretty much just a very small snapshot of what people are thinking. Overall, from the people that I've talked to, from a lot of the other videos I've seen on YouTube, I think this kind of represents a fair dispersion of the different opinions. You've definitely got a lot of people who are excited about it, but it really seems like the majority of people kind of fit in that it looks okay, I'll give it a try, to I'm kind of disappointed. I am glad to see that there are less people who are just absolutely, just disgusted with it. I mean, you definitely don't want content that is just terrible, and you don't want people to feel that it's terrible, but you also probably would like to see more people being a lot more excited than they are. And then I released another poll just yesterday, with the end of the PTS pretty much going on, asking if anything is improved. Are you still looking forward to the content? Do you think that PvP will just be pulse and counter pulse, copy paste builds, that kind of stuff? And from what I'm seeing, it basically just doesn't look like the third phase really changed much for people's opinions. And in fact, I would say that overall, the kind of pulse of the community is a little bit more negative than it was a week ago. And I think this is probably just par for the course with the Division. Of course, once they announced all the new content, or at least, that PTS was coming and new content was coming, it probably got people hyped up. And a lot of people were like, oh yeah, positive, favorable opinions all across the board. And then, of course, once we actually started cracking into it and seeing it, and more people got a chance to play it and continue to play it, it kind of settled into their minds a little bit that this is just not what we need, or at least not enough after such a long wait. Now, starting off with paralysis by analysis. Stoked, but I've only been playing for a few months after taking a year hiatus. So the smaller changes, additions don't feel underwhelming, which I can see, that's pretty much a valid point. If you've been grinding this whole time and you're just, just trying to get that perfect build, and now they're coming out with new content, you're probably looking at it like, but what is there to do that's new? I mean, it just seems very, very small. But then he continued on to say, I'm most excited about the specialization rework. All the new weapons, armor look great, and I'm looking forward to trying new builds. The game mode looks fun, but I don't see myself playing it a ton. Probably just here and there for variety's sake. Optimistic about all the stuff coming this year. Now this one kind of hits a little bit more towards my mindset. The specialization rework and the other things that are coming this year, they haven't been really discussed or shown, or we don't have much information on it. And the sad part is, I think that's really where we would want to test a lot of this stuff. Testing out some of the new armor and maybe the new mode has some, points to it. We want to test out stuff before you put it in the game. But at the same time, a specialization rework sounds like it's going to be on a whole nother level. I mean, that has a lot more potential impact for the game in a good way or a bad way. So I really wish that would have been included. I really would have liked to see what they actually intend to do with that. Because as of right now, specializations, I mean, let's face it, they're not really that interesting of a choice. Yeah, overall, I definitely see that this rework would be important, and that should have been something I think that would have been tested. Maybe they have another PTS. I mean, it's just, I would have liked to have seen it, now. I think that would have been more hype driving than what they've shown. The new weapons, new armor, that stuff, looks well enough. I mean, it's not like groundbreaking, but it does look somewhat interesting. And of course, like you said, the game mode, yeah, I don't think Countdown is really what anybody was interested in or wanting. The devs even said it themselves. It was just for casual play, just kind of not something that's really there for the hardcore farmer or the PvPer. I mean, it's just something there. Whether that's going to be really a popular mode, I don't know. I honestly don't think so, but it will be something new, so people will at least play it in the short term. All right, moving on to Brass Bat. I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of people are upset about the big grind of the expertise system, but I enjoy grinding. The gear and weapons look good. Glad to see an AR gear set. The exotic mask looks interesting. I'm doubtful it will ever replace the memento bag for me, but who knows. I'll test the crap out of it for sure, and maybe end up with a dedicated build for it. The sniper won't get any use out of me, this I know for sure. Countdown looks alright. I wasn't super interested. It was a timed game mode and didn't have difficulty settings. They've kind of left us high and dry for too long. As a dedicated Division 2 player, I took their absence personal. No excuses work for me. The Rona is not a valid excuse. I also hear Ubi is broke and may have to sell. So the future of the franchise is in the balance. I'll play the crap out of the update though. I definitely understand the point he's making. As far as gear goes, yeah. I mean, anytime they put something new in the game, I think it's interesting to test out, to play around with builds. I mean, that's pretty much what we all look for, is expanding builds and, creating something new. I do wish that they put a little bit more emphasis on diversity, whereas, I feel that the new gear set really just kind of plays into the same stereotypes and same play styles that people are already engaging in. It just makes it easier, I guess, and is just going to create another direct counter. So it might create two different builds. That's pretty much what I'm seeing. Pulse and counter pulse. And like he says about Countdown, not super impressed. I think that's pretty much generally most people's impression of it. As far as Ubisoft and Massive are concerned, if we go back to, the original surgence of the Rona, yeah, I could see that some delays. But I mean, after all this time, after all the vaccines and everything going on, I do see that, it really does look like they wasted a lot of time. Or, I mean, as we know, they pretty much intended to end the division right after the Fei Lao season. And then Ubisoft kind of just threw them under the bus and like, hey, there's going to be more content. If this was your main game and this is something that you really enjoy doing, yeah, it's been a letdown from the team, which is kind of something that we're, I guess, unfortunately used to from the people at Massive. They definitely let you down in the long-term content plans that they have. All right, moving on to the next comment. Probably going to butcher it. I think it's Tetsuo Douglas. What he says is, I only entered the DZ to loot DZ credits, and I'm terrible at PvP. Like the game for the build diversity, so I'm sort of looking forward to seeing what I can create with the new items that they're bringing into the game. I still wish they'd take the time to rethink and revamp some of the talents on weapons and gear. It's sad when the community only uses a small percentage of what's available in the game. I mean, that's true. That's something that we've constantly talked about in the community. Just why? Like, why can't they go back and fix some of these really terrible things? I mean, honestly, I don't understand, because they try so hard to like eradicate, like off meta builds, like something that's effective that's not in a guaranteed play style. It seems like the developers hate, right? But at the same time, they want to pretend like they're giving these options to these off meta builds, even though they're not really giving them. It's just it's so aggravating. And so then they just leave these terrible talents. And this is not just something that's in Division 2. If you go back to Division 1 specifically, if you remember the high-end gear, when Division 1 launched, the knee pads, there were like 3 high-end knee pads. One of them was increased loot, one of them was increased credits, and I think the other one was increased XP. And turns out that the increased loot knee pads didn't work, and so like after a year, I think, they deleted it from the game. So there was only 2 high-end knee pads that did absolutely nothing. And that existed throughout the rest of the game. It was just so stupid. Like, why did they not take the time to just rework some of these freaking talents? It would have made the game so much better. It would have made the game interesting, like having an actual usable piece of high-end gear on your knee pads. No, as soon as the gear sets came out, or as soon as the classified came out, it was pretty much ignore any high-end knee pads because they are completely useless. And if you look at the other ones, I mean, there was like 2 talents on the holster, maybe 1 talent on the gloves, maybe 2 talents on the mask, and I think between the backpack and the chest, there might have been probably the most of the talents that were actually selected. Maybe it was like 6 or 7 usable talents between those 2 pieces. So the majority of the talents were chest or backpack, and then everything else was kind of just maybes. It was ridiculous. They really needed to rework that stuff, and they just flatly refused. They never did, and that was awful. I mean, how hard is it to make a talent workable, right? You've already got these pieces in the game. Just rework the dang talent. But yeah, that's just disturbing. It's aggravating. I really just wish they would lock in the current stuff without creating new things that they will ignore in the future when nobody uses. That's kind of where I'm at with that. And next, we're going to basically just start moving into the more negative comments. Sabrasso here says that instead of luring me in and getting me excited for a flow of updates that will come, the proficiency system has killed all of my desire to keep playing. It is a hell of a grind for almost nothing. This late in the game, they want us to grind endlessly, not to mention how unbalanced it will be in the Dark Zone with players who don't have their gear maxed out with the proficiency. The game has been literally fine with just the optimization. It doesn't need another grind over a grind. The proficiency system, like I already said, it really just doesn't sound that great. I mean, it sounds like another ploy that they're implementing to avoid adding new levels to players. And I understand why they don't want to add new levels, because they really don't have anything new. And, if you add new levels, it kind of comes with the expectation that there's going to be something to do. But at the same time, if you're going to add a proficiency system, it really feels like there should be something to do too. Grinding is fun if it's something, new and unique and different. But I'm not going to be grinding every single day for all this, new proficiency on Countdown. Players just aren't going to do that. Again, we don't know fully what they intend to do later on, so maybe there is a master plan in the works that we just don't see. Maybe this is just kind of like a sprinkling of new content that they're going to be giving us, and maybe there's a huge, massive revamp headed. But I understand the hate for the proficiency system from a lot of players. And as far as the Dark Zone goes, that was kind of the same way with the Shade system. With the Shade Watch leveling that up, as soon as you got to 1,000, if you're playing against people who were only Shade 50 or Shade 100, which did happen, people found ways to cheese the Shade system, the sewer entrance or something like that the enemies just kept popping out of. So they just kept doing that same thing over and over again until they got their Shades like all the way up to 1,000. It is ridiculous. It happened. And this is kind of where you go back into the debate of level increases versus other sort of, grinds, right? Now, if you look at level 30s, in skirmish, you can see them, and they get like they kind of get like adjusted. Their gear gets adjusted to level 40 gear, but they're probably not as good, but at least there's some sort of balancing there. If you go to the DZ, I think level 30 has its own unique DZ, so there's no cross-contamination between 40 and 30. However, when you start dealing with these proficiency systems, it's very realistic that you could get, a lot of no-lifers who get full proficiency on whatever set they're using for the DZ before a lot of these farmers even get anything in the proficiency. So, I could see, it causing some issues there. And probably further killing what people think is like fair in the DZ. And that's one of the issues, if there was let's say a level 50 cap, they increased it. Well, then of course anyone who reached level 50 first would just be in the level 50 DZ against level 50s. So, that would be a little bit more fair. I mean, there's really no good way about it. I mean, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Personally, I'd prefer a level increase, but of course that would need to again come with a whole new fresh set of content, which just is not there. As far as the game being fine with just the optimization, I mean, yeah. I don't like, I don't like the optimization station. I mean, I understand why it's there. I hate the supplies like that you have to, gather up. Like, it's just so aggravating, tedious, and boring. I don't want to have to like kill one boss for 100 times just to, be able to like raise one object, like 2 or 3 levels or whatever the heck they're considered. It's just it is between optimization, this expertise system, Shade Watch. For new players, oh my, oh, you're not gonna want to play it. Like if you look at Destiny, like I played Destiny 2 when it came out. I look at all of like the weird stuff that they're doing now, and like even thinking about catching up and trying to figure out what the heck's going on, and I already don't have interest in Destiny 2 because of the bad taste in my mouth after the Season 1 pass. Like, that was garbage. I look at it now, and they may have fixed a lot of things, they may have improved a lot of things, but I look at it now like, I don't even know what's going on, and I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to take the time to figure that out, because it's just like, ugh, God, it's so bizarre and wonky. I just don't feel like it. And that's kind of how it is in Warframe too. Like I started playing Warframe, I got into it, but it's just so convoluted and so like there's just so much stuff to like try to unpack. Like I just still don't even think, like I got through the soul system pretty much, and I really kind of just lost interest because I'm like I still don't know how to find certain things, or like what should I upgrade. Like it was just, depth and variety is good, but when you make it so like convoluted and confusing and you just don't actually explain anything in the game about, this stuff, like that ruins it for a lot of players. And I'm more hardcore than most players, and I can easily see that this is going to kill a lot of people's, end game. They're going to see this, they're going to get to it, they're going to be like, okay, well, I've already played all this stuff, I've already done everything, and now they just want me to grind this weird crap. Nah, I'm out. Yeah, so I don't think that's going to help very much. And also, Zabrasso had a additional little add-on that he made a little bit later, that he was afraid that the DZ would turn into Heartbreaker ACS shotgun AR pulse counter build with system corruption and y'all. And, I get it. I honestly thought this too, but after looking it over, after kind of thinking it over, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I don't think that pulse builds in the DZ or in PvP are going to be that dominant, and that's just because there is a hard counter to them. You can literally put on 100% pulse resistance, and those builds will directly ruin anyone who's relying on the pulse damage. I mean, if you look at it, I think with all of these bonuses, you're going to be getting 40% or more damage from pulse, and to lose all of that, yeah, it's going to hurt. So a lot of these pulse counter builds are going to be dominating them. And then, of course, if you've got everyone doing pulse damage builds and everyone else doing pulse counter builds, well, what else is going to happen? You're going to see the rise of a lot of status effect and skill builds again. So it definitely kind of balances itself out. I think that, explosive builds are going to, see a resurgence. I think that, status effect builds definitely see a resurgence because less people will be rocking that hazard. I mean, there's just going to be a lot more threats, which I think it'll make it more diverse. Of course, in the beginning, everyone will be testing this stuff out. Everyone's going to be jumping on their pulse builds. Everyone's going to be jumping on their counter pulse builds. That's just what's going to happen. And after about maybe a week or two, when people start realizing, like, I don't have any advantage because everyone's rocking a counter pulse build, you're probably going to get a 4-man team. One person might be using the counter pulse build. One person might be using the actual pulse build. And you're going to see just, that variety, because that's what's going to be effective, because, you're not going to see a team of all pulse builds, because one counter pulse build can sneak up on them quick and just rock them. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be that cut and dry, but we'll have to see when it actually goes live. All right, another comment from Russell here. I'm kind of pissed, to be honest. More grind with very little additional content. I'm usually a build fiend, but I have zero desire to engage with the game. I have over 3K hours, but they have lost me. Yeah, I definitely can see, where people are coming from with this. It's the same thing. Like, they're adding grind, but nothing to grind. I mean, it's the kind of like false continuation of the game. Like, we're just throwing some stuff out there so people shut up about what to do. But there really is nothing to do, and it's ugh. I understand where people are disgusted with it. Of course, it's free content, so I can't really complain too much. They're just adding it. It is the 4th year of this game, and let's be honest, Warlords of New York was the only real decent-sized content that we got. It's not a good trend, and it's, disheartening for a lot of people who have looked forward to finally something new coming out. I completely get it. And the last comment I'm going to be going over here, from Everything Flows. I'm on the extreme negative end, I gather. I'm indifferent to the new mode, and the new gear is fine. But I hate the proficiency expertise system with a white-hot passion. A hatred close to pure. I'd rather they just left the game alone and did nothing. Don't think I'll be playing much more after the update. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely see this expertise system is creating a lot of hatred. I mean, you've got the lacklusterness of Countdown. You've got the kind of, meh about the new gear. Some people are excited for new build opportunities and maybe a little bit of a new meta. But yeah, after the novelty of, the fact that there's something new coming out, once people start looking at it, they're getting more and more negative. And I think this kind of highlights it. Like I've said, the expertise system is a grind without a reason. I mean, you've already completed all the content in the game. All of the hardest content in the game. At least, most of us have. So at best, what this stuff is doing is giving people in the dark zone who were already no-lifing the game and just, ruining the dark zone for farmers and stuff like that. Okay, maybe that's unfair. Maybe they were just literally just camping the dark zone looking for something to do. Who knows? But you already have those people who just trolled PvP. And this gives them additional fuel to do that over people who don't have this stuff. And you get a slight, benefit to people who are really dedicated to the game, but maybe haven't completed, legendaries. Maybe there's people that are like really looking to complete legendary solo and they're just a little bit away. They're just not as good. Maybe this will be able to give them a boost and finally get them that legendary completion solo. But that's a very small percentage of the game base. I mean, that's an incredibly small portion. So really, this boost to player ability doesn't mean anything. The majority of players have already beaten legendaries, have already beaten, all the heroic content. A lot of players who at least are interested in the raids have already beaten those. So you're really looking at a system that improves for no reason. I can understand. It's just kind of like, why am I doing this? Why am I grinding this same level system? Why am I grinding all of these missions and all of this content that I've been playing for almost 4 years? Why am I still doing it? Yeah, I get it. It's, But, again, I completely understand where the negativity comes from. I completely understand where the mech comes from. I understand where the excitement comes from. I myself look at it more like, hopefully this is just the first building block, right? They've said that there's more content to come. They said that they're, doing the things with the specialization systems. So who knows exactly how far they're taking the upcoming content. What worries me is the fact that this is what they're leading with. Generally when you start with a new product rollout and you want to build the hype, you start out with a product like Warlords of New York, or in the case of Destiny, The Taken King. You go big or you go home, right? In this case, it really seems like they're just giving us some crumbs, and I don't understand the point of it. I really want to know what's down the pipeline, because I think that's really where it's going to be decisive in terms of what this game is going to end up, being remembered as. If they end up having that future content is just kind of being even more lackluster or even less. Literally the next year is just 2 new seasons and maybe a rework of like the Kinley College. I think it's going to be bad. I think people are going to remember this game as being another disappointment. So yeah, I really hope they've got something bigger in the pipeline. I really hope that the changes that they make with specialization system are much more dramatic than it may seem like they're going to be because of everything else they're doing. I really hope that the game actually delivers, right? I hope that all this time they've been, just working on stuff actually is fruitful. Like I hope there is actually something good and really impressive in there. It could be anything. I'm not saying it has to be something. I mean, it could be a new Dark Zone, a new DZ in New York, right? Like something that's more closely related to the original Dark Zone. Maybe if they found a way to get 24 players in there, increase the size of the actual Dark Zone, anything. Put blueprints in there. That would be amazing. Give me a reason to actually farm the DZ. Do something, right? If they created a PvE open world area, right? Like maybe they included some sort of like raid boss mechanics in this large open world area where you can actually just play with 12 other players, or I guess with 11 other players in PvE only. So you're not actually, you don't have to group up. You just enter a zone, have some fun with PvE without having to actually matchmake, without having to actually, use voice chat. Just something where stuff happens and you have fun. You're an agent of the division and you work with other agents of the division in a enjoyable atmosphere. I mean, I get it. I can see why people would want that, and I think that would have a huge impact on the game. Whether you agree with it or not, I think that would have a huge positive impact on the game. And no, I did not say there would be, DZ gear in this zone. It would probably have its own unique items that you'd have to farm for. But of course, DZ related items should stay in the PvEVP DZ. Anyway, there's tons of stuff they could do, and what they're giving us is just boring. But anyway, we'll have to see when it comes out. Hoping for the best, expecting the worst, and I think that's pretty much what a lot of the players, probably 50% of the player base at this point, is basically just kind of expecting doom and gloom. So hopefully they prove us wrong. Hopefully this is an amazing content update, and hopefully they really give this game some extra life. But hey, thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. I'll probably be doing more polls just to gauge, overall view of this new content, and especially once it comes out, definitely be asking you guys what you think of it. But for now, that'll be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.